country and we the people on UST Party Radio.
Welcome to UST Party Radio, God, Country, and We the People, with Bill Gruber and Kaz Taylor.
We're going to interview President Ronald Reagan today. Sort of. Hi, Frank. Frank Shelton is with us.
Good to be with you, sir.
Well, Frank is a well-known speaker and minister whose impersonations of Ronald Reagan and others will amaze you. You have a background in Congress, don't you?
Yeah, I sure do. I'm 38 years old, and I was born, ironically, President's Day weekend, 72. I was a speechwriter for the House Majority Leader of Congress.
Wow.
I was an aide to the Governor of Maryland, and then I was appointed floor staff of the United States Senate, and then worked for the Republican National Committee, and actually worked in 2 White Houses.
Frank will be impersonating Reagan from excerpts of A Time for Choosing. It's a speech that Reagan did on October 27th, get this, 1964. Listen carefully, my friend, because what you are about to hear is Ronald Reagan at his best.
With all the troubles that we face today, it's time to ask, what would Ronnie say? With all the troubles that we face today, what would Ronnie say?
There you go again.
Well, here we are, President Ronald Reagan. Thank you for joining us on this special What Would Ronnie Say segment. Boy, do we miss your candor, President Reagan. We miss your humor, your common sense. Mr. President, you were once a liberal, or at least a Democrat, and embraced the concept of trusting big government. What made you change and leave the party?
Well, Kaz, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democrats, well, they left me. I recently have seen fit to follow another course. I believe that the issues confronting us cross party lines. Well, you and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'd like to suggest that there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down. By up, I'm speaking of the ultimate and individual freedom consistent with law and order.
Uh-huh.
And down, those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course.
Well, so you're saying that depending on big government to solve America's problems is a mistake?
Well, actually, I'd say it's the full power of centralized government.
Uh-huh.
Was the very thing the Founding Fathers sought to minimize. Because they knew that governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people. They also knew, those Founding Fathers, that outside of its legitimate functions, government does nothing as well or as economic as the private sector of the economy.
Well, your point about the dangers of big government are as true today as they were when you were president, Mr. Reagan. Would you care to elaborate a little bit more on that for us?
We have so many people who can't see a fat man standing behind a thin one without coming to the conclusion that the fat man got that way by taking advantage of the thin one.
Oh, you're right about that.
So they're going to solve all the problems of human misery through government and government planning. Well, now, if government planning and welfare had that answer, shouldn't we expect government to read the score to us once in a while?
Exactly.
Shouldn't they be telling us about the decline each year in the number of people needing help, the reduction in the need for public housing, but each year the need grows greater and the program grows greater?
Boy, you said that, Mr. President. Very good point. You know, many politicians today seem to be determined to make Americans more and more dependent on big government programs instead of trusting the free market system to provide a competitive environment. Capitalism, while it has negatives, I'm sure you would agree, it also has checks and balances with a lot less government involvement. Wouldn't you say, President Reagan?
Well, Kaz, yes. Yet we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals.
Yep.
They say we're all against things. We're never for anything. Well, the trouble with our liberal friends to the left is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so.
Wow, it's so hard for politicians to reduce government spending. I wonder why that is. And federal programs and everything that would allow the private sector to offer programs more competitively. Why are politicians so much against that?
No government ever voluntarily reduces itself in size. So government's programs, once launched, never disappear. Actually, a government bureau is the nearest thing to your eternal life we'll ever see on this earth.
If that weren't so true, it'd be a very funny remark, Mr. President. Since we're talking about government programs competing against America's businesses and entrepreneurs, talk a little bit about big government and how big government can choke off capitalism and America's entrepreneurial spirit. Would you, Mr. President?
Well, Cass, the government can find some charge to bring against any concern it chooses to prosecute. Every businessman has his own tale of harassment. Somewhere, a perversion has taken place.
Wow.
And freedom has never been so fragile, so close to slipping from our grasp as it is at this very moment. Many Democrats seem unwilling to debate these issues.
Wow, President Reagan. Your words echo so much of what Americans are experiencing today are found in the words you're saying right now. Many of us feel that this nation has been founded on solid work ethics, but we've lost our way. Don't government programs encourage people to be dependent upon government, and can't that be dangerous? You want to talk a little bit about welfare compared to the free trade and pro-business point of view, President Reagan?
Well, Cass, I thought you'd never ask. Those who would trade our freedom for the soup kitchen of the welfare state have told us they have a utopian solution of peace without victory. They call their policy accommodation.
Wow, accommodation. But, Mr. President, since you mentioned peace without victory, let's change the topic briefly here. You were not only our president, and you've done a good job, but you were also our commander-in-chief. Today, Mr. Reagan, our nation is sending mixed messages to our allies and our enemies. It seems our biggest battle is to win the war on being politically correct instead of winning the war. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I learned as a young man in Sunday school that, to be politically correct was usually biblically incorrect. America's current leadership seems to feel that if we'd only avoid any direct confrontation with the enemy, he'll forget his evil ways and learn to love us. They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple. Citizens must have the courage to tell our elected officials that we want our national policy based on what we know in our hearts to be morally right. Alexander Hamilton said, quote, "A nation which can prefer disgrace to danger is prepared for a master and deserves one." Now let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war. But there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second. It's called surrender.
Wow, well stated. Americans have always carried the DNA to defend our God-given freedoms. It seems that the message these days is not to violate another country's freedoms and rights, even when it threatens our own. We believe in God, the country, and we the people. Mr. President, I know you are a man of faith. Talk to us a little bit about our God-given rights to defend ourselves.
You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, well, when did this begin? Just in the face of this enemy? Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots at Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools, and our honored dead who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance.
Ronald, that's wonderful. Wow, what a powerful thing. One quick, here we have about 30 seconds left in this segment, but there's a Tea Party that's making the stand that you're speaking about. Any brief words of encouragement to the Tea Party people who may be listening to this interview, President Reagan?
Well, at one time, Cass, I loved coffee, but I love tea more than ever.
You didn't think you were going to talk to President Ronald Reagan today? Well, we surprised you. This is the U.S. Tea Party Radio, broadcasting from WSRadio.com, the worldwide leader in Internet talk.